Let's review again from Parak Bay's Mishna Bay, the second American Mishna, the second Parak. So we were in the middle of discussing the sorts of things that will split a field into two for Peah. In Mishnah Aleph, we had said they were essentially a river, a canal, a road, a path, or an unworked portion of the field. Mishnah Beis says in Amas Hamayim, a smaller irrigation ditch. If Sheni Yachli Katzer Ka'achas, you can't harvest from both sides of the ditch at once, then Rabbi Yehudah and Rabbi Yehudah says that would also create a separation.
See my picture of a method?
Yes.
And I own one. I didn't even know I owned one.
Chol haharim asher b'madar yadirun, any steep mountains, right, that you can't, even though you can't get an ox with a plow to go up it, so you can't plow it, and you're going to have to work the ground by hand, still, hunais and Peah lakol, that does not break a field, even though it's steep. As long as it's workable, that's all considered part of the field. Okay. Mishnah Gimel clarifies. Hakol mafsik l'zraim. What we were saying until now, that all these things break a field, that was for seed crops. Ve'enu mafsik le'ilan, as opposed to trees. For trees, it's harder to make a separation because trees are big and can easily grow over something like a path. So that would not make a separation altogether. If you have a fence, so that's the traditional way of demarcating the end of your field. So that would work for trees. However, v'im haya sar katush, if you have the tree branches interwoven above the fence, then eno mafsik, then the fence kind of loses the significance because you look at it and you see there's fence, but there's trees on both sides and they're essentially continuous. Elanois and Peah lakol, that would make them back. That would mean that despite the fence, you would still give one Peah for the whole thing, since the trees have the appearance of being together. Then in Mishnah Daled we have a further extension of where we combine multiple trees and make them into one. V'lchuravin, if you have carob trees, which were considered particularly prized trees, in addition to being particularly tall, so they could be seen from far away, then kol haroeh zez.
Have you ever seen a carob tree?
I do not know what a carob tree looks like.
Neither do I.
Then, okay, how do you translate this? The translation of kol haroeh zez as anything that they can see each other. So the literal translation of the trees can see each other. So there's a little bit of a question if that means a person standing at the base of one tree can see the other tree, or maybe a person on top of one tree could see the other tree. But either way, as long as they're visually connected, you could see from one to the other, that's enough to combine them. And that when you'd give one Peah for both trees, even if there's many things in between, but provided there's nothing as tall as the trees in between. Right, so if you have a tall building or a tall other tree in between that would block one's line of sight, that would create a separation. But a low thing like in the first two Mishnayos, like a road or a river, that would not separate them. Amr Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel says, "Nayigan hayu beis Abba." In my father's house, they were accustomed that they would be nice and Peah achas lezesim shehelachem b'chol ruach. They would give one Peah for the olive trees that they had in each direction from the city. So they would give one for the north, one for the south, one for the east, one for the west. V'lechuravin, and for their carob trees, they would do like we said before. Kol haroeh zez, any tree that you could see from one to the next, they would just give one Peah for all those trees. Rabbi Eliezer Tzaddik Amr, he says slightly differently in Rabbi Gamliel's name. They didn't go by whether they could see them, just all carob trees that were in one city, they would consider them all to be one field, right? Let's do one more Mishnah. Mishnah Hey. Min echad. If you plant in a single field a single type of crop, even if for whatever reason, when you harvest it, you make it into two separate piles and thresh them separately and deal with them separately, still, nice and Peah achas, it's inherently one thing, so you give one Peah. Zarish, meaning, if you plant two different types of things in your field, even if when you harvest them all together, thresh them all together, make them all into one pile, Still, nice and shnei payas, they're inherently two separate fields, and you give two payas. What if you had the middle case? You plant in your field two types of wheat. So are two types of wheat one crop or two? Then it's going to depend. Asan gairin achas, if you harvest them together and mix them all together and deal with them all as one, then nice and pay achas. Then you made them as one.
That's not considered kilayim, two types of wheat?
No, two types of wheat are similar enough that they would not be kilayim.
Yeah.
Shnei granis, if you keep them separate, then nice and base payas, then you're treating them as two crops, and then you would give two different types of payah. Okay, let's stop here, and we'll pick up.
So
tomorrow.
it's if they have different threshing times, that differentiates it.
Right.
From payah.
I mean, if you keep them separate.
Yeah.